Hello everyone, welcome back to Curious Dude. In the previous C Sharp tutorial, we saw multiple basics of C Sharp, and in this particular course, part 2, we would see more basics about strings, Boolean, if, switch, while statement, and or many more. So let's just see what is a string and how do we use it. To before starting before I say how to use a string, I'll just give a brief explanation on strings. So strings are nothing but an object with multiple characters or a single character within the string combined to form a string. So we type string, we say string. I'll name it as my str. You can name anything that you wish to. In between double quotes you would mention a string. So in this I would say the curious. Now if I want to print this particular statement that I have written, I would say write line, console write line, and I would just say my str. By doing this and after executing, it will print the curious. Now let's say that I have one more string, and I have named it as my str2. str2. So here I have given dude. Now if I want to print both the strings together, I would just say my str1, my str followed by a plus operator to combine both the strings and then print it. So remember, when I say my str plus my str2, the plus symbol combines both the strings and it will showcase in one line. That becomes the curious dude. So similarly we have Boolean. Next we'll learn about Booleans. So earlier I have mentioned that Booleans can be defined as bool, and I would say my bool is equal to true. So it can have true or false, on or off, or else it can have yes or no. So those kinds of characters comes under Boolean. So let's say I have to give an example for Boolean. I have int x is equal to 10. So now if I say console write line x is greater than 11, and if I try to print this, it should actually return false because the value of x is 10, but whereas I am saying console write, if I'm checking if the x is greater than x value is greater than 11 or not, so it says no, value is not greater than 11, it's lesser than 11. And that is how we define, we come to know it as a Boolean or not. Now the next topic that we will be learning is a if function, and if function is the syntax for if follows like this. If you would give your condition here, followed by the code if the condition matches or does not matches. Let's say condition matches, it comes here. If the condition does not match, it depends on the condition that person has given. And else statement, if required, we can give an else statement, or if not, we no need to provide else statement. Now let's just go dive deep in and see, give an example. Now I say int x is equal to 10. Now I am checking if value of x is greater than 11, and if the value of x is greater than 11, then I should be printing something. So I would say console dot write line value of it should be in double quotes. Let me just write it in double quotes. Value of x is greater. Now let's say if the condition does not match, I want to print value of x is lesser. So this is what I want to print, and let's see if I run this, what would I get? Oops, I forgot to end this code. Now by running this, it says the value of x is lesser. So here what happened here is I just checked if the condition is true. So if x is greater than 11, no, it's not greater than 11. So it just skipped this particular line and it directly came to the next phase of the condition. That is, if the value is lesser than 10, lesser than 11. So it matches the condition and it comes here. So similarly, let's say I type 9. And now this time it should type value of x is greater, and that is true. So we can use if condition in many ways. Let's say that I have multiple if conditions. For example, I want to check if else if value of x is equal to 9. Then I would write something. I would write value of x is equal. So you can actually write multiple conditions within the if condition itself, and it will still print the same thing. So I would say 10, and I would say 11. So now this time it would check for the value of condition is this one, and it prints that. Now let's say what happens if I keep this as 9 and if I try to run this. So you can see that it had actually run only the first statement but not the second statement, because when you write an if statement and if the condition passes here, it does not bother to go to the else if statement. It directly jumps out of the loop. So it considers this entire thing as one whole conditions, bunch of conditions where it has to look. Any condition just matches, it just comes out of the that current loop or that current conditions criteria. So it comes out and it just prints. So now we will move on to the next phase, that is switch statement. So similarly, you know that there are multiple conditions here. So we also have something called as switch statement. Switch statement can be used just like how we use if statement or else if, else statement. Similarly, we can use a switch statement as well. And to give a precise, to give a syntax for switch statement, it would be switch. You can give it switch with an expression followed by the different cases that you want to give. Let's say case X, oops, case X, case Y, case Z, Similarly, you can give multiple conditions to if switch statement. Now let's just go dive deep in and give an example for a switch statement. Next, we'll learn about the switch statement. So switch statements executes one of the many code blocks within the statement. So to see an example for switch statement, let's take an example called example. Now I would say int my int is equal to 1. So I gave my int value as 1, and I am writing a switch statement, and I would pass my int to the switch, and I would give case 1 console write line, you have typed 1. Now you have to break this and you would continue. Now you would give a next condition. Let's say I say case 2. I would copy paste this to save our time, and I would say 2. Now I would give a break condition and case 3. Let's just copy this, paste it, and I would say 3 and 4, 3 and 4. Now you have to end it with the default. Default would be console dot write line incorrect value, and you would end with break. So this is how you use an a switch statement. So now let's run this and let's see what we get. So it directly says you have typed 1 as it matches the condition. So as it is an int, so whichever number that you pass, it will print the case belonging to that particular condition or the expression that we have given. So here it says you have typed 3. Now let's see what happens if I type something beyond 4, let's say 7. And if I try to print this, it will say incorrect value. So because it does not have anything out of this, it will print anything that is we have mentioned in the default. So what happens if I use a character? So instead of this, I use a character, my char is equal to, let's say I use character A. So what I should be doing here is, if I'm using a character, I should mention characters. Char, and this should be, we can name it as B, as C, I can give it as D. So let's say that when I'm mentioning a character, this should check if the character matching with this. So when I print this, it should say you have typed 1 because that is a condition that matches with A. Same goes for string, same goes for integers or double or a character. Now let's say that we want to take an input from the user. So I say char my char. I would say console right line, enter the character, and here I would say console readline. So when I do this, it should actually read this. You can observe one thing, that it is actually showing me an error because the console read line usually reads the character. So I need to convert this to a string. I mean, it usually reads a string, character string, but not a character. So I need to convert this to a string format. And once after converting this to a string format, what I should be doing here is I need to change this single quote to double quote, because uh, strings, we define strings within double quotes, not single quotes. So I would change this, and now if I try to print this, it would ask me to enter a character, and I would press enter and click A. It would give me a result as incorrect value, because here, if you notice, I have entered a capital A, but here I entered a small a. C sharp is a case sensitive language, so even the capital and small, when you are comparing two values, matters. So if I say this, now we got the output as what a is equal to, you have typed 1. And this is how we will be using a switch statement. Now after switch statement, we will go to the next phase, that is while loop. So let's say I will just give an example in while loop. While loop is nothing but I want to print, let's say I'll just give an example with I want to print 1 to 10, and I am using while loop to that. So what I would define is while loop actually contains three things. One is initialization. Next is the end index. Sorry. Next is the condition. Nothing but the end value. And the last one is it increment or decrement? So let's just see an example in this. So I would say int x, int I is equal to 0. This would be my first initialization, while I is lesser than or equal to 10. This is my condition till where it has to continue. I would say console right line value of I is plus I. Now I would say I plus plus. Now this indicates I'm incrementing the I value, and let's see what it does. So you can see that the value of I is 0 to 10. So it started with 0 and it ended at 10, because we have used a condition: if I is greater than or till it is equal to 10, continue this loop. So what if I want to take an input from the user to make sure that the value keeps continuing to the end value. So to do that, what I would do is same method. I would say console. I would ask for the input, enter. I would say enter the value. We need to take the input. We took the input and we would save it in a variable that is len. That is an integer variable. We save it in this. And now I will say console.readline. But here we see an error. The error is because this particular input what is provided by the user is actually a string format, and we are trying to pass a string to an integer. This comes in a typecasting, so what we would do is we would convert this integer to an int format. So to do that, we just simply say convert to int, and now it has been converted to int. So let's run this and we see it is asking for a value, and I say 20 and I'll click on enter. When I do that, here I would say len and I will run this. I would say 20 and I will run this and it will print till 20. Let's say I don't want it to print 0, I want it to start from 1. So simple, I would just give the beginning of the index to be 1. And now if I type 20, it will go till 20 starting from 1. So this is how we use while loop. Now let's say I want what is for loop. For loop is also works in a similar fashion, but whereas while loop has 3 different lines to showcase, to use initialization and the condition and increment or decrement, for loop mentions all the 3 in one single line. So I would say lesser than or equal to len and I plus plus. Now if I try to write, let me copy this, paste this, I plus I. Now if I run this, it will ask for the value. I'll say 30 and I'll click on this and it would print the output for me. Now you can see that it has print only till 29, not till 30. It's because here I have said if I is lesser than length. So when I becomes equal to length, it comes out of the loop. So this is for loop, which works in a similar fashion of while loop. And there are few cases where we'll be using while, and there are few cases where we will be using for loop. Moving on, now let's say I have the same thing and I want to break it. Now we'll learn a new concept, break or continue. So if the I value is equal to 10, that is when I would say break. When I say this and when I use this particular condition now and I type 20 or 30, and if I say this, it will break at that particular point. It won't be printing anything beyond a 10th length. So now let's say that instead of this I say continue. So what this does is I use 30 and I say this. Now if you notice, there is between 9 and 10 there is no 10. 9 and 11 there is no 10. So what it does is, if it found I is equal to 10, it continued it. That means it broke that point, it just skipped that iteration and it moved forward. So that is how you use break. Break function, break and continue. Break function stops the iteration right there, and continue function skips that particular iteration and moves forward. So we just completed break and continue. Now we will move to the next topic, and a final topic in our part 2 of our tutorial. So that is nothing but arrays. So how do we define arrays? So array can be a string, integer, or a boolean, or any format. So let's say I say string, and if I mention it with brackets, that, and if I name it as my AR, this becomes my array. And to pass a value within the array, I would open a flower bracket and I would pass a value, and I would say hey, and separated by commas I can pass multiple values, and hey curious dude, and I'll close the parenthesis. I'll close the quote with a semicolon. Now this particular thing what we see here, it becomes array for me, a string array which contains all the string values. Now if I say my AR2, and this will contain all numerical arrays for me, so which does not require double quotes. I can just give it, I can just mention numbers. So now this becomes my integer array format. So let's say that I want to display one of these. What I would say is console dot write line, and I want to display my first array, that is my AR. Now within the bigger brackets, I can just give the index of the array that I would like to display. And if I say my array of 2, it should display dude, not the curious, because array actually starts from 0. This is 0th position, this is first position, and this is the second position. And if I run this, it will print me dude. Same goes for the integer, and same. Now let's say that I have a huge array, like literally huge array, and I don't know the value of everything. I don't know, I can't remember the index number of everything. In that case, we we want to print everything that consists in that particular array. So what I would do is I would use for loop, and I would start my index with 0, and I would say I length is equal to lesser than, I is equal to 0, and I is lesser than length of array, nothing but my array dot length. So this would give the total length of that particular array, and I would say I plus plus. Now to print it, I would just say console dot write line, and I would just pass my AR of I. So what this condition will do is it will start from the 0th position, it will enter the loop, and it will print the 0th position. It would have been incremented. Now it would go to the second position, then go third position, then fourth position, and then it will come out of the loop as there are no other arrays. So it printed all the elements which are present in the array. Now let's say that I want to replace a particular array, and to do that I would simply say my AR of my AR is equal to, sorry, my AR of 2 or 3 is equal to, and I would pass hello. And now if I do that, now if I run this, you would see the world has been replaced with hello. So this is how we actually use the array statements. There are multiple uses of arrays. We can use it with multiple things, which we would be learning more in the projects that we would be doing, the assignments that we would be doing, and we would cover all the functionalities of array. That's it for this particular tutorial. Thank you for watching. If you had liked this video, please hit that like button and please share and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.